For those of you who don't know Icon Meals, they're a meal delivery service that caters to athletes, including bodybuilders. Now, if you have heard of Icon Meals, chances are you've heard of them through Mike O'Hearn, who I've seen promote them pretty heavily, although they do have a number of other sponsored athletes, including World's Strongest Man Brian Shaw. Now, what I thought was interesting is they have a blog, and on one of their blog posts, this woman, Rachel Scheer, wrote an article titled, "Why You Should Think Twice About Vegetarian and Vegan Diets." Now, this woman is an absolute fucking moron, and she's a cholesterol denier, where she thinks animal products are not responsible for our most common chronic diseases, including heart disease. In the premise of this article, she wrote, "For the last 50 years, we have been told that meat, eggs, and animal fats are bad for us. This has been so drilled into our brains that very few people ever question it anymore." Now, these are absurd claims. Claiming that you should think twice about vegetarian and vegan diets is no different than claiming you should think twice before brushing your fucking teeth.
Oh, Narlin, your breath stinks. Have you not been brushing your teeth again? You want to think twice before brushing your teeth, Brandine. There's all these chemicals in toothpaste, and all these dentists have been drilling in this idea that we need to brush our teeth every day, and no one even questions it.
But as it turns out, it's a good idea to follow a vegan diet, just like how it's a good idea to brush your teeth every fucking day. Now, there are two levels of stupidity to this. For one thing, she's just dead wrong about her claims on veganism. And two, this article makes absolutely no business sense. So if you go to iconmeals.com and you go to their custom meal builder, check out the protein section here. So they have a new vegan patty, which they only introduced a few days ago, and they have vegan chicken. So not only do they have vegan options on here, but they're actually creating more vegan options, presumably because of high demand. Now, this woman, Rachel Scheer, decided to write an article advising people not to buy the products that this company is selling. I don't know how much more fucking retarded you can get than that. Now, before we get into this article, there's one very weird thing I want to bring up. All throughout this article, you can see that she left bibliographic references here. It's all throughout the article on every paragraph, so she tried to provide evidence for her claims, but there's no bibliography if you actually go to the bottom of this article. And these references aren't direct links either. So that got me wondering, why did she leave bibliographic references without any actual link to the resources she's referencing? Well, it turns out she just copy and pasted this article off of her own personal website where she has a blog. And if you check out her blog article, which this article was copied from, it has the bibliographic references with the links active. So this woman is so lazy and she cares so little about this fucking topic that when she directly copied this article off of her own website, she didn't even bother to just add in a bibliography so people on this website could see the sources. So what this bitch is trying to do here is fearmonger everyone into thinking that if you go vegan, you're going to be deficient in all these vitamins and minerals, while ignoring all of the data showing that vegans have the lowest risk of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and chronic disease across the board compared to any diet group. And the first vitamin of concern here is B12. And she claims that studies have shown that 68% of vegetarians and 83% of vegans are deficient, compared to only 5% of omnivores. Now, she gave a reference here, but of course, on this article, on Icon Meals, there's no bibliography, so we have to go to her blog post on her website to actually get the link. So this is the study she referenced in regards to B12 status in vegans and vegetarians. Now, the main problem here is when the study was conducted. This was conducted back in 2003, 15 years ago. There were also only 29 vegan subjects, not a big sample size, but the main issue here is just how old the study is. 15 years ago, back in 2003, you have to consider just the culture of the time. This is before Facebook and YouTube. There weren't nearly as many online resources where vegans could learn about things like B12 and how important it is to get B12, how to supplement, where to get it in food sources, and also the products available at the time. There weren't nearly as many vegan mock meats or dairy substitutes that were fortified with B12. So yeah, 15 years ago, it's not surprising that a lot more vegans were vitamin B12 deficient. So why would you rely on a study that was conducted back in 2003 when we have more recent data? So here's a study that analyzed the micronutrient status and intake of omnivores, vegetarians, and vegans in Switzerland. It was published back in 2015, so much more recent. And also, the sample size was much larger. There were 53 vegans in the study as opposed to only 29 in the study she referenced. So I don't know why you wouldn't have relied on more recent and more comprehensive data. And unsurprisingly, according to this more recent and more comprehensive study, only 7.5% of vegans were vitamin B12 deficient. So in this day and age, vitamin B12 deficiency isn't as much of a concern for vegans because of widespread use of supplementation and the consumption of fortified foods. Now, it's important to understand that Rachel Scheer is a lying hypocrite. Not only does she cherry-pick data like I just demonstrated, but, she claims that vegans are deficient in all of these vitamins like B12, calcium, iron, zinc, EPA, DHA, and fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin A and vitamin D. Well, she sells all of these supplements on her website. If you go to her website, she has a supplement range called Metagenics, RachelScheerMetagenics.com. Now, if you go here, she has a wide range of supplements. They range from just simple multivitamins to things that are supposed to deal with more specific conditions like cardiometabolic health, blood glucose, immune function, things like that. So here's one of the supplements she sells, Wellness Essentials Men's Vitality. Well, if you look at the ingredients list here, let's see, vitamin A. Well, didn't you claim that only vegans have issues with getting vitamin A? So why are you selling a supplement that contains vitamin A? What's also hilarious here is the supplement also contains vitamin C, which you get from fruits and vegetables. Rachel, well, why wouldn't you just eat fruits and vegetables which contain vitamin C rather than taking a fucking supplement? Are you that terrified of fucking vegetables? The supplement also contains vitamin D. Okay, well, I thought only vegans had problems with vitamin D. Why does the supplement contain vitamin D? Should only vegans take the supplement? We also have B12. Oh, well, I thought this was only a vegan problem. So why are you selling a supplement that contains B12? We also have zinc here. I thought this was only a vegan problem. So you sell fucking supplements that contain all of these fucking nutrients that you claim vegans are deficient in. You are just a lying fucking bitch. I don't know why the fuck you do this. It doesn't even help your fucking business because you're working for a fucking company that sells vegan products. You're trying to claim that people should stay away from vegan and vegetarian diets, but at the same time, you sell fucking supplements that contain all of these vitamins and minerals. Nothing you say or do makes any fucking sense because you're just a dumb bitch. And now we're on to calcium, and she claims that the bioavailability of calcium from plant foods is affected by vegans' levels of oxalate and phytate, which are inhibitors of calcium absorption and thus decrease the amount of calcium the body can extract from plant foods. So while leafy greens like spinach and kale have a relatively high calcium content, the calcium is not efficiently absorbed during digestion. Now, she does have a bibliographic reference here, but of course, she didn't leave the actual link on this website, so we have to again take a look at her blog to check out the research she referenced. So here's the study she referenced. We'll take a look at the full text in just a moment, but keep in mind, this is a study she referenced in support of her claim that vegan and vegetarian diets tend to be inadequate for overall health. Well, here's what the study she referenced claimed. Vegetarians typically have lower body mass index, serum total and low density lipoprotein cholesterol levels, and blood pressure, reduced rates of death from ischemic heart disease, and decreased incidences of hypertension, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain cancers than do non-vegetarians. So, why didn't you mention any of this in your article, retard? So, let's see. If I eat a vegan or vegetarian diet, I'm less likely to be obese or die from a fucking heart attack, stroke, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, or cancer. None of that matters to you, and you're cherry-picking fucking data and misrepresenting research to try to claim, oh, if you're vegan, you can't get enough B12 and some other vitamins. Yeah, you're a fucking moron. So here's the full text to that paper, and in the calcium section, the authors claimed that greens that are low in oxalates like bok choy, broccoli, Chinese cabbage, and collards, and fruit juices fortified with calcium citrate, malate, are good sources of highly bioavailable calcium, 50 to 60% for the greens, 40 to 50% for the fruit juices, whereas calcium-set tofu, cow's milk, and soy milk fortified with calcium carbonate have good bioavailability of calcium, 30 to 35%. So isn't that strange? A lot of these green vegetables, like broccoli and collards, have higher bioavailability of calcium than cow's milk, and fortified soy milk has the same bioavailability of calcium as cow's milk. So where's this fucking horseshit coming from that, oh, vegans can't get foods that have enough calcium bioavailability to prevent deficiency? Yeah, again, if we actually take a look at the fucking research that you referenced, it turns out you're a fucking liar. Rachel Scheer is also claiming that phytates have a negative impact on bone health, and literally the exact opposite is true. Phytate consumption reduces risk of osteoporosis, bone mass loss, and fracture risk in postmenopausal women, and high phytate consumption is associated with greater bone mineral density. So where the fuck are you getting these ideas from, Rachel? If you take a look at Rachel's website, she claims to have received a degree from Baylor University in nutrition sciences and dietetics. Now, with that sort of educational background, I have a hard time believing that you've made genuine mistakes. I think at this point, it's clear that you are deliberately fucking lying, you're deliberately cherry-picking research, and deliberately misrepresenting the research that you cherry-picked. And now we're moving on to iron. So here she claims that ferritin, the long-term storage form of iron, is notably lower in vegetarians and vegans. And she also claims certain things like coffee, tea, dairy products reduces iron absorption, and that vegetarian diets have been shown to reduce non-heme iron absorption by 70% and total iron absorption by 85%. Okay, so the first study she referenced was a pediatric study seeing whether or not iron and zinc are nutrients of concern for vegetarian infants and young children. I don't know why she'd reference this study in particular. And the authors found that although both vegetarian children and adults have lower ferritin concentrations than omnivores, hemoglobin differences are small and are rarely associated with anemia. So she's trying to argue that vegans and vegetarians have higher risk of iron deficiency and anemia, when, according to the research she references, that's not the case. And here's the second study she referenced, which dealt with the bioavailability of iron in vegetarian diets, and just like before, she misrepresented the findings of the study. So if you scroll down, the authors found that vegetarians, especially females, have lower iron stores as indicated by serum ferritin levels, but this doesn't really matter. However, the result of such surveys remain consistent with the conclusion over a decade ago that iron deficiency anemia appears to be no more prevalent among vegetarian women than among non-vegetarian women, at least in Western countries. So she just referenced a study that is in complete contradiction with what she's claiming. She's claiming that because non-heme sources of iron from plant foods are less bioavailable, that means vegans and vegetarians have higher prevalence of anemia or iron deficiency, when that's not the case. The prevalence between both groups is exactly the same. You should also know that heme iron, the iron found in animal products, is a pro-oxidant. It causes the oxidation of LDL particles in your blood, which is a huge risk factor for heart disease. And in this meta-analysis, they found that the risk ratio of coronary heart disease for an increase in heme iron intake of only 1 milligram per day was 1.27. So if you increase your heme iron intake by 1 milligram per day, you are increasing your risk of coronary heart disease by 27%. So maybe it's a better idea to get your iron from lentils as opposed to steak, since that will clearly reduce your risk of heart disease. And vegans and vegetarians have the same risk of anemia as omnivores anyway. So it's only a win-win situation. Also, despite omnivores tending to have higher body iron stores in the form of ferritin compared to vegetarians and vegans, we already know this doesn't actually reduce risk of anemia, and this is also a huge risk factor for type 2 diabetes. In this meta-analysis, they found that ferritin stores were significantly associated with risk of type 2 diabetes. So again, Rachel, I just don't understand why you're such a lying fucking cunt. You are literally linking research that is in direct contradiction to what you're claiming. And if we actually take a look at heme iron versus non-heme iron, heme iron is associated with a greater increase in chronic disease risk, including heart disease and diabetes. So why are you promoting the consumption of foods that cause heart disease and diabetes? And why are you lying about vegans and vegetarians having a higher risk of iron deficiency? None of this is true. I am certain that you know this because you linked the fucking research proving it. So why are you a fucking lying cunt? And now we're on to zinc, and I'm glad this is almost fucking over. So here she's basically just claiming that vegans and vegetarians may require a lot more zinc in their diet because of lower rates of absorption. And this is the only part in her article that I'd say she's correct. At least according to the study out of Switzerland I referenced, vegans do tend to have higher rates of zinc deficiencies. 47.2% of the vegans in the study were zinc deficient, whereas only 10.8% of the omnivores in the study were zinc deficient. Now, with that said, over half of the vegans in the study weren't zinc deficient. So what this comes down to is just having an appropriately planned diet. Just because you go vegan or vegetarian, that doesn't mean you're automatically going to have a zinc deficiency or any kind of deficiency. Any diet has to be appropriately planned to be nutritionally adequate. A vegan diet is no different, so I don't see this as an argument against following a vegan diet, especially when there's all of these health benefits like lower rates of obesity, heart disease, hypertension, diabetes, cancer. Also, keep in mind, this woman sells supplements that contain zinc. So if you're going to be selling supplements like these, clearly you don't believe that zinc is only a vegan issue. Everyone has to have an appropriately planned diet, and if you can't get an adequate amount of nutrition from your daily diet, then supplementation or the consumption of fortified foods is necessary, and you're clearly not against that sort of thing. And now EPA and DHA, here she makes a lot of ridiculous fucking claims that she can't back up with evidence. She says plant foods contain both linoleic acid omega-6 and alpha-linoleic acid omega-3, which are both considered to be essential fatty acids, meaning that they cannot be synthesized or produced by the body and therefore must be obtained through food. Of the two essential amino acids, EPA and DHA for omega-3 fatty acids play a protective role in the body, such as fighting disease, cancer, asthma, depression, cardiovascular disease, ADHD, autoimmune disease by greatly reducing inflammation in the body. Notice how she does not give a bibliographic reference here, because all of these claims are complete and utter horseshit. Here is a systematic review where they found that long-chain and shorter-chain omega-3 fats do not have a clear effect on total mortality, combined cardiovascular events, or cancer. So she's overinflating the benefit of omega-3s. They don't really have a clear effect on any of these health parameters, so she's just completely full of shit, and she knows it. Again, she doesn't provide any evidence whatsoever for these claims. Although it is possible for some omega-3 fatty acids from plant foods to be converted to EPA and DHA, that conversion is poor, between 5 to 10% for EPA and 2 to 5% for DHA. Vegetarians also have 30% lower EPA and nearly 60% lower DHA. Okay, first of all, you're overinflating the health benefits of EPA and DHA. According to the systematic review, again, the short chain and long chain omega-3s don't really have a significant impact on overall health. So just because the EPA and DHA status in vegans and vegetarians is lower, that is not expected to have significant overall health outcomes. And secondly, you can just take supplements. So here on Amazon, you can order a microalgae supplement which contains DHA and EPA. So if you're really concerned with getting enough of these omega-3 fats, well, here's a supplement, makes it really fucking easy. And again, this arch hypocrite Rachel Scheer sells EPA and DHA supplements on her fucking website. So if it's okay for, meat eaters to take a fucking fish oil supplement, well, why is it a problem for vegans to take a microalgae supplement? So you are a lying, manipulative fucking cunt, and I still don't understand why you're doing this, because this bullshit you're promoting is harming the business that you're involved with. And finally, we're at the last portion of this article, fat-soluble vitamins. She says, probably one of the biggest problems with vegetarian and vegan diets is their near total lack of the fat-soluble vitamins A and D. And she gives absolutely no bibliographic references here. So if you're going to claim that vegans and vegetarians tend to be vitamin A and vitamin D deficient, well, why don't you provide evidence for that claim? Again, I think you know that you're being a lying, manipulative fucking cunt. And vitamin D deficiency is extraordinarily common in the US, with 41.6% of Americans being deficient, and the highest rate is seen in blacks at 82.1%. So skin color highly affects vitamin D deficiency rates. Pretty sure 82.1% of blacks aren't vegan. So again, you're just deliberately misrepresenting data and just pulling shit out of your ass, fucking lying and being a total manipulative cunt. I think you know full well that pretty much everyone is at risk of vitamin D deficiency, which is probably why you make and sell a supplement that contains vitamin D. So to sum things up, Rachel Scheer is a lying, manipulative cunt. Given her educational background, I have to assume she understands the studies she's referencing here. So she has to be deliberately lying and trying to mislead her audience. And I don't know why she'd be doing this, because, again, it's directly harming this business she's associated with, Icon Meals, which has vegan products, and they're expanding their vegan line. So I'd have to assume the reason she's lying about this crap is because she has some really strong emotional bias where she doesn't want to feel pressured to eat a vegan diet, given all of the health and ethical benefits. Rachel, if you ever want to have a debate on this topic, I'm free anytime. Just message me on Twitter. I'd love to have you on the channel so I can prove that you're a lying, manipulative idiot and no one should listen to your advice. And if you like this video, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. I have some funding perks you may find interesting. If you're looking for vegan apparel, then check out the Vegan Gains store. And subscribe to my gaming channel. Just a few days ago, I was streaming Spider-Man, so if you want to see some gaming content, then subscribe to my gaming channel. And as always, keep making those vegan, and don't be a lying cunt Gains.
Beef. What a relief. When will this poisonous product cease? This is another public service announcement. You can believe it or you can doubt it. Let us begin now with the cow. The way it gets to your plate and how.